says that the most important function of epic poetry is to transmit the values by which a group of people is to live. This transmission is accomplished not by an explicit discussion of those values, but rather by their embodiment in heroic figures who are presented as role models, and imitating those role models gives meaning and direction to the lives of those who hear the poems.
I think, did we go over this one?
We did, so I'm getting like trauma.
This is a tough one. Okay, so we're saying the most important function of epic poetry, so like the most important thing that epic poetry does is transmit or to put the values by which a group of people is to live. So we're like, hey, we've got to include these values that people are to live in. This transmission, so giving these values that we should live by is accomplished not by like actually talking about those values, but rather by their embodiment. So putting these values in heroic figures who are presented as role models. Imitating those role models gives meaning and direction to the lives of those who at least hear these poems. We feel like we have a really good understanding of the stimulus. Whenever you read stimuluses, do you break it, continue to work on breaking it down sentence by sentence, how I just transcribed that? Kamani, you're really good at breaking down stimuluses.
Yeah, when it's like argument and like premises, but I like really hate when it's just statements. It's like, because you try to like link it up to like make the connections. It's not as like easy, I feel like, with argument and like when there's a conclusion.
Maybe we'll focus so much on linking it up and just focusing on it to understand. Like truly just translate like each sentence into your own words just for you to understand it. Like who cares about linking it up?
Okay.
Because I get what you're saying about like when there's big chains, that can get confusing. All right, so this is a must be true question. So is this top down or bottom up?
Top down.
Yeah, so do we want a strong or mild answer?
Milder.
Awesome. So which ones did you cross off here?
So like for me, I crossed out A because I saw it says poetry. We don't know about poetry, you only know about epic poetry, so I crossed that one out.
Awesome. I actually, the first time I did this one, I actually left A open for a second, but I had noted poetry in my head and I was like, oh, I don't think I like that. So I think we're just for your exact reason, but we should be critical. And yeah, that's not right. All right, Ashley, what would you cross off?
So could that also be a reason why we cross off C, because it's talking about just poetry as well and doesn't mention epic?
Yeah, when values are represented in poetry, they rarely, if ever, set forth explicitly. We have no idea about poetry in general. We are just talking about epic poetry. Excellent. All right, what else would we cross off? All right, Kamani.
E is super strong when it said only epic poetry presents heroic figures as role models. If imitate, like I thought that was really strong, and like we don't know that.
Yeah, like I don't even know other poetry types, but maybe those other poetries also present heroic figures as role models. All right, what else? What would you cross off, Jessica?
D, because it says for many groups of people. Like we don't know about many groups of people in this stimulus.
Yeah, who all do we know about?
But I thought many could be many things, and that's like mild.
It can be very mild, but do we know about any groups of people?
Oh no.
We only know about one
like,
group, right?
The lives of those who hear it.
Oh, okay.
I do agree that many can be mild.
Okay.
So can't many be like some as well, which is also just like at least one?
I think money is, in my head, many is at least two. Like, I don't think you would say many if it's only one. Do you agree with that? Like, I don't.
Yeah, it's just just because like I was like I think on LSAT Demon or something, like they said like many is like could be one, like I don't know, something like that.
I mean maybe like I think many has to be more than one, because like many can't be. But who hears the poems? Yeah. That I do think that that one is tricky. If I were to have some and many next to each other, many would be stronger than some,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
many is still weak.
yeah.
Many is especially weak when it comes to like a bottom up question, like a strength or a weakener. But so then why is B correct?
Well, so they say that in like the first sentence it says like the most important function is like to transmit the values. And like further down it says they do this by what's it called? By like the heroic figures. So that kind of just ties in the two premises and which comes to like B. So
Yeah, perfect.
uh,
And this one does is strong. So some people are like, well, this is strong. It can't be the answer. But it is at least like we lead with logic first in our answer choices. And then we use, if we're debating between two, we use strength as a hint. But here it says the most important. So it's no stronger than what our stimulus is. So that's why we're able to go with it.
Hold on, just one question, because I got this wrong and I picked D. So D is wrong because we don't know the many groups of people.
Yeah,
so
we
wouldn't
don't
read
know
further.
about those who hear the poems.
Okay, okay.
We don't know about any groups of people, to be honest. I mean, unless you say those who hear the poems are like one group of people.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear why B was right. I took it out because of the yeah. Why was B right?
Because we say the most important function of epic poetry is to transmit the values. And they transmit the values by putting the values in heroic figures who are presented as role models.
Okay, got
So they accomplish their most important function by presenting heroes as role models.
Okay, I just have another question about this type. Okay, so when you read it, you just read it to understand it. You didn't try to link it, because I feel like I got this wrong because I didn't make like that connection. And then I was like, okay, which one's mild? D.
When you say link it, are you talking about like conditional chains, or like when it says this transmission, I do fill in what that is and I say, okay, what's this transmission? And I know it's putting the values on a group of people. Is that what you struggle with?
No, it's like, you know how when he was explaining it, well, I just think I got this wrong because I was looking for language, but like as you read it, like he made the connection of like why B's right. And that doesn't click.
I think if you focused more on reading to understand rather than linking, the link actually would have came to you naturally.
Okay, okay.
I know that's probably hard to trust, but did it for you, Mohib?
Like I didn't really connect it right away, so I didn't really have a pre-phrase going in. But like when I saw B, like, it just clicked. I'm like, okay, yeah, the most important part is like that transmission of the heroic figures thing. Like it just like linked when I saw the answer choice. I didn't like have the pre-phrase beforehand.
Yeah, and I don't predict must be true questions.
Yeah.
FYI either. Like I didn't predict anything going into this one.
Yeah, but just when I saw it, then it kind of like made sense.
Yeah, and I remember when I read this thinking, oh, the most, and I guarantee when I read this for myself, I was like, oh, well, that's strong. So when I read it in an answer choice, like I did remember it from that because I had noted it in my head. Because anytime I see something extremely strong, I'm like, that's strong. Well, that's opinionated. Because it does help me from making those small mistakes.